This episode was stoked to announce some support from a new sponsor and also a chance to win some fresh mountain bike kit for this winter weather. Dirt Ledge makes performance outdoor mountain bike clothing specifically focused on all-weather performance. They are also the original creator of their top product, the Dirt Suit, a waterproof yet breathable mountain bike specific onesie designed to keep you riding at your fastest on the wettest of uplift days or enduro rides. It's available in Gravity Focus Core Edition or an Enduro Focus Pro Edition in both women's, men's and loose fit specific sizes. The suit features a 3-layer membrane engineered to keep the wet out but still improve cooling airflow. 6 adjustable air vents for temperature management, waterproof pockets, reinforced seams, detachable legs and a reflective print. This truly is the perfect addition to your winter riding wardrobe to make the most of the mud and ride further and faster for longer. They've kindly sent me one too, and I can't wait to get out and test it. We've got the conditions at the moment, and this week I'm going to be shredding in the deepest of mud. We're also giving away a heap of Dirt Ledge products over the next 3 weeks, so head to our Instagram and Facebook pages and get involved to win yourself some photochromatic trail spec, a 3/4 Mountie jersey, and the top prize of a Core Edition dirt suit. So a big thanks to Dirt Ledge for sponsoring this episode. Hope you all enjoy the episode and go and check out their products on their website. Cheers. Hello everyone and welcome back to this week's Stay on Your Bike podcast. I hope you enjoyed the last episode, and this week is the first episode where our guest is in the same room, so please bear with us with the audio. Hope it all works. Today's guest actually brought his own audio with him. He's a bit more professional than us in the media world, so hopefully it'll work all right. Very happy to have on a good friend of mine who's a fantastic mountain biker, a YouTuber, an influencer, which he likes to go by. So welcome to the podcast, Alex Holowko.
Fantastic introduction there.
No problem, mate.
Fantastic.
No problem.
So now you've told your guests now that I've bought my own audio. So if it is bad, I'm going to get the blame for it.
That's why I told everyone.
Perfect. Well thought out.
Thank you.
I love the word influencer.
Yeah, well, I know you like the word influencer, that's why I brought it up. But, you know, you are an influencer in this day and age. So first of all, let's start on, first how you got into mountain biking, because most of the guests that normally have on so far have been people that, I've grown up with racing or raced with in the past. Now I know you raced as well, but I'd say probably out of most people, you've done the least racing that has probably been on the podcasts. So and you've been doing the YouTube thing quite a long time now. I believe it takes quite a long time to get momentum with a YouTube channel and stuff like that. Well, first off, how did you get into biking? How did that happen? And then you can take us into how you came about doing YouTube stuff, which has become very successful.
It's doing alright, yeah.
Yeah,
Still got into biking in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started riding. 16 I was, 15, 16. First bike was a Kona Blast.
Kona Blast.
Remember that? No, actually it was a Gary Fisher.
Right.
Gary Fisher Marlin I had. Have you ever seen one of them?
I can't. Is that a hardtail?
Hardtail, yeah. Hardtail. Used to just go down to the local woods every night after school. Literally every night after school. Same crew of people every night. And that's where I learned to ride, to jump.
And whereabouts was this?
It's in Stockport.
Okay.
Woodbank Park.
So would that have been far from where Farmer John's is now?
Not far from there, yeah.
Okay.
Not far from there. There, and then they used to have a train every weekend to Delamere Forest. Do you remember that place?
Yeah, I used to go there all the time.
Yeah, used to go there. That's where I got mad into dirt jumping.
So what kind of years was that? If you can remember.
2000 and probably 2005, 2004.
Okay.
Between that and 2010 or something.
I'd have been going at the same time as you then to
Delamere,
Delamere.
yeah.
Definitely.
I remember seeing you on the first time I ever saw you ride was with Petey at Delamere. Remember that in Earth?
Were you there that day, or
No,
you
that's
just
where
saw it on there?
That's where I first saw the Nigel page.
Oh, right.
At
I think
Delamere
that
Forest.
probably peaked that day, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was all downhill from then on. Not very quickly. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back, because obviously I Delamere was one of my sort of closest riding spots that I'd drive to, but there was kind of different eras of Delamere. I would say just before that, probably around 2000, 2001, they had quite a good dirt jump set in Delamere.
Yeah.
But they all got knocked down because I think some random guy like crashed in a hole and broke his neck or something like that. So the biggest dirt jumps that I remember there, they got kind of knocked down. I don't know if they were there when you were going. They were there because there was kind of the main little riding area in Delamere, where they had some little downhill runs. You went into a bomb hole and then a little step down. There was some dirt jumps around there, but there was also I don't know if you ever went across a field. There was another wood that had some dirt jumps in. Did you go in that?
I think I can vaguely remember them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember them. The lads there were super passionate about digging them. Like every week we were there, they were digging.
And who were the lads that were digging and stuff? Can you remember?
I remember a guy called Dan Webster and Ben Roberts.
Ben Roberts rings a bell. Yeah.
He had a brother as well, Ben, and what's his brother called? Anyway, there was like 3 or 4, probably more than that actually. There was about 10 people that used to go there religiously digging.
Right.
And we'd go there every weekend, get the train. I'd get the train from Marple to Manchester, and then Manchester to Chester.
Yeah.
Or to Delamere, and then we'd ride from the station at Delamere all the way to the forest.
Because there's a train station right at Delamere Forest, isn't there? Could you get off on that?
Yeah.
That and then ride
and it was like a half an hour ride from there every weekend.
Cool. Yeah, good. It's a good scene at Delamere. And then how did then what progressed from there? Did any of them boys go racing and stuff? Did you?
Yeah. So I got my first downhill bike around 2006, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like 16, which is a giant glory. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where the shot went through the frame.
Yeah, was that like, were they white and blue? The frames?
Mine was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was mainly blue,
Yeah.
but a little bit of whiteness, this like electric blue.
Yeah, I remember them.
And it was the best spec
Kind
bike.
of quite a chunky tubing bike, yeah.
Yeah. If they remade that now in modern geometry, I think it would be a pretty good bike. So
Right.
got that, started getting into... Actually, before I got that, I had the Kona Blast, which was my first proper bike.
Was that a suspension bike?
That was the front suspension bike.
Okay.
I mean, I remember snapping the forks at Woodbank Park on that by learning to jump on a cross country bike. The forks just like disappeared off it.
Yeah.
Massive crash. I had to walk home with it. Tail between my legs, and I said to Mum and Dad, I want to get obviously I broke my bike. I need to get some forks. So I need to fix my bike. Paid for some new forks out of some pocket money. Sold the Kona, and then started getting into looking at full suspension bikes. And then I bought parts off friends, just really cheap parts, second hand, and built up a Scott High Octane. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Built one of them up, and that was my first bike I did a race on. I think, did a race at Bala.
Bala?
Remember Bala?
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was like my favourite track.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's
flat out.
It's pretty full on track for your first downhill race, I suppose.
Yeah.
The one that's you kind of just go past Revolution Bike Park and it's the one at the end of the road.
Yeah. But when I raced there, it looks way different now when you look at the videos now. When I raced there, back in 2007 or whatever it would have been, the track was way different, all in the woods, real wide, fast. But now it's it's all felt. Most of it's felt now. I think it's all properly built. But when I was racing it was a lot more raw.
Yeah.
And I remember the speed of that place just being insanely quick.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where Dan and G and Rachel and that used to do downhill runs and stuff. Because I remember, can't remember why, but I ended up going. We went there one time with Dan, Joe Smith, and they were all into the off-road cars and flipping Land Rovers and stuff, and I went there in my mum's full stock Vauxhall Frontiera Sport and followed them around the whole lap, and it was pretty mental what we were driving around. But I'm pretty sure that was that same area where the Bala track was.
Yeah.
That's been going a while. And so, how did you hear about that race? Did one of the lads from Delamere tell you about it, or?
Yeah, just word in the grapevine. Wanted to get into racing. Started doing Pierce Cycles races.
Okay, yeah.
Like everyone seems to start with them from around here.
Yeah.
Best organised races.
Yeah.
So I did a few uplift days. Then started to do all this Pierce races.
Mm-hmm.
Then got into some more than British national down races.
Yep.
And then from there, kind of started wanting to do more international races.
Okay.
British national downhill was interesting back then. It's changed a lot now. Like I don't know when the last British national downhill you went to.
Well, I actually went to one last year, but we didn't actually stay for the race because Elliot himself, so we ended up coming home. But so what year would that have been?
What was my first national race? I can't remember when it was actually. I raced them for about 4 years, maybe from 2008 onwards.
Okay, so was that when Cy Payton was running the
series? He was doing them then.
Yeah.
He did all the national races when I was racing them. So I think my first one may have been. It might have actually been here in Leithen.
Okay.
I think it might have been in Leithen here. That's where I got the. That's where I first came here.
That was the first
ever time, didn't it? Yeah, first ever time.
Brilliant.
For a national downhill race.
And who what? I guess at that time you were in the senior category.
Senior, and then went from senior to expert. Never actually racing elite, just racing expert.
Yeah, because they had senior, expert, and elite then, didn't they? And who were the sort of lads that you were sort of racing against? Can you remember at the time, and your competitors and friends you raced with?
Competitors and friends. I actually can't remember any off the top of my head. It's been that long.
Yeah.
It was the era when I used to look up to Josh Bryson and Sam Dale. They were the same age as me, so I used to always look up to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they were in their prime as junior riders.
Yeah.
I can't remember what bike Sam would have been on and Josh would have been on. Sam, I think when I was growing up, Sam was on a solid bike.
Oh yeah, he was. But Josh would have been on Orange for a while.
Orange, yeah.
And then he went straight from Orange to Santa Cruz, didn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of when Pete sort of went from Orange to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
So did you race against them boys, or were they?
They were in junior, yeah. So it was those two, and Joe Smith was in that category as well.
Ah, okay.
And that was as a junior.
Yeah.
And then when they went to elite, I didn't race against them. Then I was in a different category.
Yeah.
And then I can't actually remember who was a rival or anything like that. It's been that long since.
Sure. And was the plan to? Did you have any ambitions to go and race World Cups and stuff like that?
That was the goal.
That was your goal.
So from there, I wanted to go and try and get UCI points to race World Cups, and got. I think there was 2 years where I was within a point of getting enough points to race them. So I never actually raced a World Cup, but had a few years where I raced just international races. So I would just do IXS Cups, Portuguese races, pretty much everything that's underneath a step down from World Cup racing. So I used to love them. So
kind of like what they're trying to do again now. They're trying to get those series back up and running now, aren't they? So, the elite level only will be at World Cups, and then hopefully everybody else will be going after the accesses and stuff like that. And how did you find racing downhill abroad compared to the UK? Because it was a long time before you did it than I did it, but I started off racing here as well. One of my first downhill races was in Leithen, and I thought it was unreal. Coming from where I came from with not many hills and stuff. But as soon as I went and did a European downhill race, I didn't even want to race over here anymore. It was just such a different. It was like a different sport. It was much more high speed, more wide open than racing in the UK. That was more tight and a bit slower, maybe.
Yeah, I used to love racing abroad. I think the first time I went abroad to race was in Portugal. We always used to go to Portugal before the season started, in March, April time, and do some of the Portuguese Cups.
Right.
Because they were dirt cheap.
Uh-huh.
There was some good competition there. There was UCI points available, good prize money, and just overall generally really good organisation on really good tracks, like proper raw tracks, how a track should be.
Yeah.
So used to go out there with, do you remember Alex Bond?
Yeah, of course. Al rode for our team one year.
Oh yeah, so he did,
Yeah.
Al Bond, Joe was there some years, if I remember rightly. Who else came with us? There's quite a big crew of us that used to go every year.
Yeah, a lot of people, they'd always kind of have a race, wouldn't they, before the World Cup season kicked off, and a lot of European World Cup riders would go and sort of see where they were at before the races started. Yeah,
I used to love racing over there. I mean, someone from around here actually explained it really well to me here about the difference between UK racing and European racing for downhill. And he said, UK racing, you spend all your time getting up to speed, whereas European races, you tend to spend all your time like either slowing yourself down or controlling your speed because because the tracks are that much faster.
Do you mean like in the UK you're trying to generate speed and over there you're trying to basically stay off the brake?
Just control the speed, yeah. Whereas here you're just trying to find, trying to generate the speed,
Yeah, that's a good analysis of it, really. I guess we have UK nationals at Fort William and stuff like that, which is a bit different, which has been a World Cup track since 2002. But other than Fort William, nothing's quite as fast as it is as going racing abroad, I imagine. And so, how long did you do the downhill racing for, and how did that sort of go for you?
Raced downhill for, I can't remember how many years I raced downhill for, but kind of I wouldn't say I lost interest in it, but I was starting to ride a trail bike more then.
Yep.
And enduro wasn't a thing then. Like it was just
trail bikes were getting better.
Yeah, but they were, enduro wasn't a thing. It was just like you'd go on a cross country ride, you'd go on ride a trail bike.
Yeah.
And then started to really enjoy riding an enduro bike or a trail bike. And then ended up just riding that more.
Yeah.
Than my downhill bike, because of where we lived back in Manchester. There was just
you've always got to drive somewhere, haven't you, to go and do it.
So I just love pedaling places. So I had a first proper trail bike I had was a giant Trance.
Oh yeah.
Little giant Trance, which I did the Mega Avalanche and stuff on for the first time.
Right.
I remember doing that first time, did the Mega Avalanche on this little 140mm travel bike.
And what did you think of the Mega Avalanche?
Well, crazy race that I think every mountain bike should do at least once. The first time I did it, I dislocated my shoulder literally in the first corner in qualifying.
I think it's one of the gnarliest races I've ever done, to be honest.
It's wild.
And you get so many different, you get elite level downhill races to flipping complete and utter beginners go and do it, don't they? I honestly don't know how some people get down it, because I'm not saying I've done it. I've done it 1.5 times because I had a similar thing to you. In the first year I did it, and then the next year we went back and done it, and I broke my hand in the qualifying race. Carried on and finished the qualifying race, but my hand was worse than I thought, so I had to go and get it wired and stuff. But it's a gnarly event, isn't it?
Qualifying's harder than the actual race. Like it's 20 odd minutes of just pure hell.
Flat out, yeah.
And then the actual mega race is like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
I don't think the tracks are actually that dangerous, but the fact you're racing hundreds of people down the same track on the snow and the glacier is like insane. Because you can be so focused on your line.
Yeah.
But then you've no idea what's going on behind you. Someone could just become steaming past you.
That's it.
Or turn into you on your line or whatever.
And it's not as kind of, for me I'd only really raced closed course stuff or four cross or dual or whatever, which the track's fairly narrowly taped, isn't it? Whereas there's sections that are so wide, and if you don't know where you're going, you can go off a big rock step, and it's pretty gnarly in that way.
Yeah.
And like you say, that somebody's on the main line, so you try and take a different line, and then that line's not even rideable. It's fairly wild.
It's wild,
yeah. And so, what year would that have been? Was that before enduro racing really kicked off?
Yeah. So I was still predominantly doing downhill.
Yeah.
and someone said, you need to come and do this race called the Mega Avalanche, and I started looking into it and thought, oh, I'll give that a go. I think I saw it again on Earth. I saw it once on Earth, and I was like, there's a cliff actually on Earth where there's a guy who crashes and his bike goes off this cliff and just it bounces, so like it must be destroyed. It goes for so far down the hill, and I saw that on Earth.
I remember that. Yeah.
I saw that clip on Earth, the whole section, and thought that's a good race. That looks really good. So then went once, hurt my shoulder, then didn't obviously race, but really enjoyed the whole week of riding. Like it's so fun around with your mates there, isn't it?
Did you take your downhill bike with you or not?
First time I did it, I was just on a giant trance.
Right. Because when we did it, I don't know if it was still going on when you did it, but a few days before practice of the Mega Avalanche, they always had a French Cup on the French downhill track that was in the same area. So we'd do that in the week, and then a couple of days later you'd swap and do your practice for the Mega and do the Mega on the weekend.
I never did that. I remember it being on though while I was there. They had that. They had the chainless race.
Yeah.
They had a dual slalom race.
Okay.
What else did they have? What else did they have? And then obviously the qualifying and the main race.
Yeah. Yeah, not sure. I don't know if they had I think when I did it, I think it was before the slalom and stuff, but that, the track where they had the downhill French Cup thing, that was an insane downhill track. That was really good. Don't know why they never had that as a World Cup, to be honest, but
you can see it when you go with the gondola.
Yeah,
Mega.
Yeah. Well,
looks good.
When I done the Mega, the qualifying finished in the same spot as where that downhill race finished.
Oh, it might be on a different hill then, because the qualifying's changed now.
Yeah.
So it used to go all the way down to Oz, down to the
That's
next.
it. It finished in Oz, that downhill race, and the Mega qualifying did as well.
Oh no, sorry. So the qualifying used to finish in, what's the town? Is it just called Huez? It's called Huez.
In Alpe d'Huez?
Yeah, well, you've got Alpe d'Huez,
yeah,
and then there's a town down called Huez, the next town down the road, and it used to finish there when I first did anyway. So you used to race through the town of Alpe d'Huez,
yeah,
and then there'd be another section of track down to Huez.
Yeah, well, when I did it, you went through Alpe d'Huez. There was a big, in the actual race, there was I can't remember where the qualifying went. You went up in the qualifying, there was like a fire road climb in the middle, and then you dropped down some real fast stuff and ended up in that Oz place, which is where the downhill track was, which was really good. So after you'd done that, did you sort of enjoy that more than the downhill at the time? Yeah,
then I started and just enjoy time on my trail bike more than the downhill bike. So I started getting more and more into enduro, and that was when it was becoming a thing. And there had already been some riders that had moved from downhill to enduro specifically. So Mark Scott, he was one of the pioneers who moved over from downhill to enduro. I think he done most of the races up until like last year or so. He did literally every single enduro World Series race.
I first remember Mark being enduroing with Greg Callahan.
Yeah.
We were in when I was running the race team, and it was the second year Sam Hill rode for us in 2014, and Sam won the World Cup finals. And then the day after, we were still there, and we went riding in Maribel with Mark and Greg. I'm pretty sure they were actually on a small nuke-proof team at the time before they kind of found their own feet and really got after the World Cups or World Enduro World Series, I guess it became. And did you start going down that path then?
Yeah. So I started doing I did some local UK enduro races, which I really liked. Then the first EWS I did, the first Enduro World Series, was in Olargues. Remember that in France?
Yep. Would that have been when we were doing it, or would that be before then?
Yeah, this is quite recent, really. This is quite
2018 or something like that, 19?
Maybe 2016, 2017.
Or was it that early?
Maybe. That was my first one, but I remember that was
maybe 17.
That was super eye-opening though. That was like one of the gnarlier ones I've done.
Yeah.
Over the 3 years I did EWS,
yeah,
that was one of the
Is that the place that had the really gnarly rock shoot in it?
Yeah, that was like hit
It was
or
dead
miss.
slippy.
It's like hit or miss if you got down it.
Yeah, I didn't race that race, probably fortunate for me, but excuse me, I was obviously there with Sam because Sam was competing in all the races by that point. I think that was the year where the team was still doing downhill, but Sam had swapped over to enduro full time, so there was a couple of races where I missed going to the downhill and went to the enduro and vice versa, because a couple of them clashed. And so from that point, did you want to focus on doing all the EWS rounds?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That was my main focus after that. Just decided to train for EWS
Mm-hmm.
and then I did 3 full years.
Right.
Committed to that 3 full
Fair
years. And we went to some, I think in the early years I used to enjoy it more. So like in the year of logs and maybe the year after, maybe 2017, 2018, we went some really new places for enduro.
Yeah.
And I used to love going to new places. Like, it was so cool.
And was that still when, I'm trying to think of the years, because when we first started doing enduro, it was, you basically had 2 days of racing, which was amazing, I thought.
Yep.
You had 2 days of practice, I think, then you had 2 big days of racing, and I thought that was the best discipline for enduro personally.
Yeah.
With some big long stages,
Oh yeah.
Like I remember doing, and I don't think I even did the longest ones, but I remember doing one in La Tuile where you started right at the top and there was bits of snow, and some of the stages were like 20 minutes long and stuff like that. Is that what you liked about it?
I did this, the first year I did them, we went to La Tuile, and I remember that first year I did them, I remember it feeling like every race we went to, the event organisers were trying to one-up each other and how challenging they could make the stages.
Yeah.
And there was one stage at La Tuile which there was one person who had a really big injury on the first stage and hurt themselves on a wooden bridge. Remember that? Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
And
I can't remember who it was.
And then there was another stage they took out at La Tuile because it was too dangerous.
Yeah, the rocky one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember riding it in practice, and then it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Because I remember Sam being devastated when they took it out. Because the harder it was, the more he liked it, because it played into his skill set, I guess.
It was literally one of them stages where you felt like, I've survived it.
Yeah, that's how it felt to me. Whereas I remember him absolutely loving it. And so at that point, did you have a sponsor for doing it and stuff, or were you kind of doing it all yourself?
No, when I started the YouTube channel, we got some support off a company called Stiff, like a distribution of Stiff.
So is that when you started the YouTube channel?
Started the YouTube channel the same year I started doing EWS, and part of the deal with Santa Cruz was to document these races.
Mm-hmm.
So got support off Santa Cruz. I think I had what bike did I ride? I think it was a Nomad.
Right.
So really enjoyed that bike. Santa Cruz Nomad, loved it. Rode them for, I think we had Santa Cruz for 2 years. And
was that just you, or did you have a bit of a team going with somebody else?
Me.
Just you.
Yeah, just my own thing. It wasn't really like a team, it was just like a privateer, supportive privateer kind of thing. And then after that it went to Vitas.
Okay.
So Chris McGlinchey approached me when he was working there and was really interested in the idea of getting more exposure on the bikes on the channel. And it was...
And what made you decide to do the YouTube channel then? Like, were you a fan of YouTube? Did you watch a lot of it yourself and think that's something I could do?
No, that's why I'm still like, almost doesn't compute me when someone says, oh, you're a YouTuber. I mean, you could say, yeah, I am a YouTuber now. I put videos on YouTube, so you can call me a YouTuber. But, like, if I actually look back when I first started mountain biking when I was 15, 16, I've always had a camera. Like, even just wanting to record friends, make little videos.
Just been interested in
and they're all still on Pinkbike now, all these really old videos. Like, I think they're too cringy to watch. Yeah. But they're all still there, and then it only clicked with me a year or so ago. I was like, oh, I've actually been
doing it
for 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
It was only maybe in 2017 when it became like a thing, and it wasn't really even a thing then. It was just like let's just put things on YouTube and see what people think of it. And then after about 2 years, it started to become a bit more of a thing.
Yeah.
Where we just sharing racing. People seem to enjoy that.
Doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And what you know, because obviously I've never been. I wish I was more into it, you know, and film more stuff that I've done over the years. But I'm just someone that could never be bothered being organised enough to take a camera and do all that stuff. I know a lot of people like Steve Pete always videoed stuff and documented it, which is, you know, how he's been able to put together his, you know, his movies that have come out and his books and stuff, which is really good. But you know, what were you always interested in cameras and stuff, or was it just basically to document what you were doing on your bike?
I wasn't so interested in cameras when I started riding. Like a camera to me was just a camera. I wasn't really that geeking out over cameras. I started getting more interested in cameras when they brought out the GoPro, the first ever GoPro camera, and you could put a little camera on your helmet.
Yeah.
And even, you know, back then they were, you know, crap quality, shake all over the place. But ever since they started getting better and better, I just started taking a camera everywhere, just to film, even just film myself riding. And I actually remember being at some races, just maybe a couple of years ago, and you'd speak to some people who were very against the idea of using cameras for, like, making videos or anything. They'd just be, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for.
Do you mean other riders?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like, I could very much see where the whole thing was going with media and racing and how that would. That was my bet anyway. I was thinking, YouTube is going to play a big part in all of this. Whereas maybe people didn't see that back then. So you'd speak to some racing, they were just so focused on the racing and getting the result.
Yeah.
Whereas I was also interested in that, but I was also very aware that the media side of things was pretty big and was going to be big.
And with that mindset, was that because obviously when you're racing and, you know, it all costs a lot of money, and, you know, most people aim to get sponsored, so you get your equipment free, your bikes free, your tyres, all that. Was that what you're thinking behind doing YouTube, so that it would help you get more support for what you wanted to do?
Maybe, yeah. I think I just saw the value in what a brand who would want to sponsor me or work with me wanted. Like how to get them more exposure from a bike race. And
100%,
yeah, that's what I felt people wanted to see. And people were really enjoying it, so I just did more of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it didn't really take away from the good thing about a GoPro or a little camera is it doesn't really take away your focus from racing, because you just put it on your press record and you're away.
Yeah.
It's not like anything you have to spend loads of time setting up, or it doesn't weigh you down or anything like so. It never really became like an issue. But,
yeah. And so, you know, just to go off on a bit of a tangent there, obviously, some of the successful racers that do a lot of YouTube stuff and are doing exactly what you've been doing, and what you're saying is, you know, a prime example is Bernard. You know, he basically documents all his, you know, his training. He's going out like in this time of year, training in New Zealand stuff, doing races, documents all the races, and then you get people, you know, at the UCI World Cups and stuff, and then they you know, obviously I know people pay into that, but then they ban them from, you know, filming what they're doing on the race runs and stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
There's actually a video on the YouTube channel about that. We did an EWS here in Olethen, and I've chatted to Bernard quite a bit about this stuff, about camera rules and regulations and stuff, and at this race here, it was very unclear about what the rule was for cameras, who could use them, who couldn't use them, where you had to mount it.
For an EWS?
Yeah.
So that was before it was a World Cup, though? It was.
Yeah. So it was
different rules on it than the UCI World Cup downhill race.
Yeah, but there was still very much like not very clear communication between who could and who couldn't use cameras, how you would get permission to use a camera. And I remember there's a video on the channel of this. I got to the start of the stage, and I'd been racing and riding the whole week in practice, and then going to the race, about 3 or 4 stages into the race, hadn't been told anything about cameras.
And did you have your camera on?
Yeah, I was recording myself coming up to the start line to start the stage, and with about 30-second countdown, there was a guy at the start, a commissaire, who was, I can't remember his name, but he was real aggressive and rude with me. With 30 seconds to go before this race, and he was like saying, "You need to take your camera off, take it off now, you can't have a camera." And I didn't even have a chance to say anything, and it kind of like upset me a lot and put me in this, what's going on? I'm just about to drop in for a race, and you're literally screaming at me. And there was people in the queue behind me watching and could see all this. No one said anything, and so took the camera off for the race run, dropped in, and for the whole run I was like, what is even happening? Got to the bottom and instantly was in this real aggressive mood. Not aggressive, but like I was quite upset by it, and tried to figure out like what was the deal with cameras, and then stood watching at the bottom for the rest of the stage or the rest of the race, and there was people coming down with cameras, wearing cameras, yet I was being told I couldn't wear them. So I spoke to event organisers asking, what's the deal with this, why have I just been shouted at, and they couldn't really give me an answer or anything. That really frustrated me. And then actually spoke to Bernard quite a lot about cameras and things, because I know at World Cups he's very much on the ball, or is very into like understanding where his content's being used and what the regulations and rules are with that. And yeah, so I did speak to him a little bit about what experience I'd had, and it was frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, you know, for instance, if you know you've got a TV production company that are sponsoring the event, and they allow so many of the top elite riders to do the World Cup runs, and then they use that footage on because they've paid for all that. But you know, for somebody that's especially not on a factory team that's maybe on the podium, I don't even really know if it matters, but when you're paying to do the race, and you know, it's crazy to me that you're not allowed to film your own race run.
The answer that someone gave me was, you can't have cameras for safety reasons. Like it's literally for safety, but then if it's a safety thing, then it should be a black and white rule for everyone, not just like a few riders.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing some racers coming down, some elite level racers with cameras on, and as soon as they'd cross the line, someone would literally run over, grab the camera off them, and then they would go.
Yeah, because from what I remember, like with the race team, there'd be a document that come out at the start of the week when you're signing on, and you'd have to fill out a form to say whether you wanted your riders to be, able to wear a camera. So then, if you've got a podium place rider in your team, they want that footage then to use. But you know, for people like yourself and Bernard, just as examples, that's part of your income doing that, because that's what you've created your jobs to be. It's crazy that you're not allowed to use your own footage for that.
Yeah, that was part of my argument. That was kind of why I fell out of love with, one of the reasons why I fell out of love with EWS, because of that.
Yeah.
As well as like it's taken, I think now, from when I first started racing EWS to the World Series it is now, it's taken on like a way different form of structure and how it all works. For me, it's just not for me anymore. I still love riding my trail on my enduro bike, but doing the EWS now is just not something that excites me. I'd rather spend my time doing other things.
Yeah, well, I think it was going in a really good direction, like when we were first doing it, and when you were doing it, those big 2-day events, it was so fun. You know, the terrain and the places you were going to. But then, you know, and the industry were into supporting it, because, you know, the industry sells a lot more trail bikes and downhill bikes and everything else. And the development, especially at Nukeproof, we were constantly developing like the Nukeproof Mega and then the Giga to have the most up to date and best equipment to deal with those tracks we were racing on, which then became the biggest selling bikes in the range, because you know a good enduro bike somebody can go and do an uplift day on, or they can go and ride downhill tracks on as well. So it became a really, really popular bike, didn't it? But I think then, people were also, because when the EWS wasn't linked to the Downhill World Cup, it was a separate organisation, and people were saying, well, how can we achieve the coverage for the race for our athletes and stuff? So, they were trying to change that so that they could film the races. By when they introduced the Saturday afternoon pro stage. From what we were told, it was supposed to be a pro stage on the Saturday afternoon, and then that stage would be repeated for the last stage on the Sunday race, or part of that stage. So the initial thing we were told was there'd be cameras set up to film that pro stage like a Downhill World Cup, and then the cameras would still be set up for the final stage the following day, and then they'd do the feeds and bits of coverage in the middle, and that's where we thought it was going. But then all of a sudden the coverage actually never went in that direction. In my opinion, the coverage got worse, and but they carried on with that pro stage, which to me and the riders on my team, they just thought it was a waste of a day. You did all that getting ready and set up to do one stage on the Saturday. You may as well have done 3 or 4 stages. Once you're in your kit and you're off on the hill, it just didn't make any sense. But I don't know the answers to this, but I think that was the plan. And then obviously in the middle of that, the EWS people were already in talks with the World Cup, and then that merged and they took over the World Cup, and then all those plans for the enduro kind of got put to the side. And I know they say that they haven't put any less resources into the enduro and stuff, but I think the focus, once they got the control on the downhill and the cross country, I think it's definitely unfortunately affected the enduro. And now loads of teams are pulling out and sponsors are pulling out, and probably the stages and the way that the actual racers wanted it to be had gone in the wrong direction. But racers will do that, they'll just crack on and do it if they're going to get the sponsors and the support of the teams. But at the moment, that's completely gone the wrong direction, and I think it's a big shame.
You can see why teams pull out and brands pull out, because they can't. I mean, I know a lot of the fees went. You know better than me for this, but the entry fees, and just getting your team to a race and having a presence there went up.
It's huge.
But also, I'm guessing as a brand, from what I was seeing, it was hard to see a return on. Say if you had a brand sponsoring your team, I'm sure that brand would have a hard time feeling like, what are we getting in return from this?
100%, yeah.
Like in terms of exposure and stuff, because when I used to race them in 2017, 2018, maybe even before that as well, the EWS, when it was in its early stages, had these cool, there was a lot more media around stories, around different riders, and you'd see so much more stuff of the event. And I used to love sitting down and watching all the videos from that.
Yeah.
But then obviously, like you say, when it got taken over, I felt like it got pushed to the side. So I saw some races in the last few years where there was an EWS at Leogang, and the race was on a Wednesday or something. Which who's going to come and watch a race on a Wednesday for a start?
Yeah, it was embarrassing for the riders, I thought, because I was at that race. I was still running the team, and you had the best enduro riders in the world racing down a track into the finish area of where the Leogang World Cup finishes. There was literally about 6 people watching it, and it was going dark.
Yeah, it's wild.
And it was embarrassing that they thought that it was acceptable to put these elite riders through that. They must have felt, well, this is a waste of time. You know what I mean? It's
wild.
It's a shame, really.
I mean, if I was a brand manager now and I was having to decide between, if a team had budget that was between enduro and downhill now, to me it'd be very clear, put more budget into downhill, because that seems where there's more action. There's probably more chance of better coverage.
Yeah.
Even though that's taken on a different fate, that's going. I don't know what this year's going to be like with next. So yeah, this year's going to be different as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I only, I was obviously in a lot of meetings running the race team for Chain Reaction Nuke Proof, but thankfully, you know, the people that I dealt with there were still, you know, keen for us to do the enduro, because that is where we sold most of our bikes. So, you know, and I truly believe that the reason Nuke Proof was as successful as it was because of the race team.
Totally.
So, you know, but you had to then start to create your own media on top of paying for your race team. So, you know, you've got your budget to go to the races and pay your riders and all the, you know, your mechanics and everything else, but you also needed another budget to do some, you know, video content and get clips from certain videographers at the race and put together films to showcase what the guys were doing to sell these bikes and make these bikes look cool, because the EWS guys were not doing that. You know, we were paying a huge fee to be an elite team to get, and for being an elite team you got so much coverage from the event to use yourself, but it was rubbish really, you know. So I get it's a difficult one, you know, if you've got a smaller bike brand that doesn't have a huge range of bikes and can't really make a downhill bike because it's not making any money off, and they can't afford to run a downhill World Cup team, then, you know, where do you put your sponsorship now to sell those bikes? Because, you know, in my opinion, it's still, you know, a factory race team is still the pinnacle of, you know, the image for those bikes. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got, you know, you've got other ways of promoting them bikes, like with free riders doing big jumps and people like yourself doing, you know, riding all over the world and showing super cool places that, you know, then people might want to watch that and then go and try themselves. But I still think you need a race program to make your bike cool. Do you know what I mean?
Same as cars, isn't it? Same as rally as well. Like, everything trickles, well, I don't know much about either of those sports, but I'm sure it trickles down from F1 and rally into like modern general technology. It's
how you make a better product, isn't it? By pushing the limits with the fastest riders in the world and trying to come up with a better bike than your competitors.
Because I think, like, I mean, you've had some amazing riders on your teams. Like, even just having Sam on the team that would sell bikes.
Of course it did, yeah.
Like, literally that would sell bikes. Because I remember I used to always want a Nuke Proof because you'd see him win EWS and think, that bike is the reason why, kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, if Sam had just carried on racing downhill and done edits on this Mega, I think you'd have still sold Megas, but I don't think you'd have sold as many as when he was, you know, doing what he was doing at a World Cup on a bike that you could just go in the bike at the shop and buy the same bike, and it wasn't crazy money either.
No, like, they're really good value for money. Then Nuke Proof and Vitus were both very good value for money with the spec and the actual performance of the bike, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go back onto, you know, you're getting picked up by Vitus, and I think that was a really good move off Chris to do that, because the thing with what people might not know, obviously Nuke Proof and Vitus were both in-house bike brands for Chain Reaction Cycles and Wiggle. So all the same guys would work, you know, designing the bikes and ordering the bikes from the factories. And at one point when we were still doing the downhill team, I was like, you know, we've got these two brands. Why don't we have some riders on Nuke Proof, some riders on Vitus? Because it was, you know, the team was Chain Reaction Cycles, it wasn't Nuke Proof at that time. I thought it would make sense to do that, to promote both brands, but internally they wanted to keep Nuke Proof as like the race brand as such, and Vitus as the, I can't remember the term they used, but the everyday people's brand, which obviously then for somebody like yourself, what you were doing, you weren't focusing on doing the World Cups, that fitted for what you were doing, rather than give you a Nuke Proof bike.
Totally. I used to love riding those bikes. I thought they were amazing.
Well, I mean, you'll know as much as me. All the geometry that we fed back that we wanted from the race team stuff, that all them figures went into Vitus as well. The nuke-proof and Vitus spikes were very similar. You know, if nuke-proof had gone away and we'd have swapped onto Vitus spikes, we would have had no different results. It's just it's a different way they wanted to promote those brands, and then obviously Vitus retail price was even cheaper than a nuke-proof because it was a direct model through chain reaction and not you didn't have to have the the markup for the shops, whereas they wanted nuke-proofs to be in the shops as well. And so how was your experience dealing with Chris and the guys at Vitus? Because it was always good to deal with for me running the race team.
It was good. Got invited over to Ireland to ride the bikes and rode. I can't remember where Chris took us, but he took us to this little short, fast, intense downhill track to test the bikes. I can't remember where it was. You'll have probably been there every time. I can't remember the name.
Was one of the tracks called the Bins or something?
Yeah, that's where it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. Yeah. So I rode there. Chris is a really cool dude.
Yeah.
He doesn't work in the bike industry. He works in marketing or doing something completely different. Like it's in advertising.
This is Kipper.
Yeah, Kipper. Yeah.
Well, he's an insane cross-country World Cup racer now.
He's nuts. He's nuts. So fit and strong. Yeah. So known him for a long time. I used to know him as well when he was racing downhill. I met him when he was racing downhill with a couple of Irish lads. He used to go around doing.
Would he be a similar age to you then?
Kipper's a bit younger. Him and remember a lad called Dan Sheridan. And Senan.
Them two rode like on a nuke-proof satellite team, didn't they, when they were younger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to know them through that, and then when Kipper reached out to me, and I already had a connection with him, and he was real keen to do something together, which I really enjoyed. I think I was using Vitus for pretty much until they disappeared.
So how, for people that and I don't know this. I've only ever dealt with sponsorship for race teams or for racing myself. So how do you go about negotiating a sponsorship deal for what you're doing? Does it go off figures, what you get on your channel? Does it go off do you have to say how many videos you're going to make a year or something? How does all that work?
It's a bit of everything really. I mean, it's all very, very similar. But essentially you have your YouTube channel or your social media presence, which is a certain audience size.
Yeah.
And the person who wants to do a deal with your brand, they obviously want to get access to the audience because maybe they have a product that's a right fit for them.
Yeah. And
to have someone organically promote a product without always forcing it down someone's throat, just having it in the videos is generally enough just to encourage people to go and check out the brand and maybe even buy a bike or buy whatever products that I'm doing a brand deal with. So it works off. I mean, some people, it's not always the numbers. That's not always if you've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, you'll get
X amount.
No, I mean, because we can get on some other stuff after about YouTube and stuff, but I know some people have got way smaller channels than mine, and they have such a close connection with their audience.
Right.
They've only got 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is not very big.
Right.
But if they promote something, they'll generally have a really good result with sales of a product or exposure because they've got such a good connection with their audience.
So explain that, because I don't quite understand what you mean.
So say someone with a smaller channel, say someone who has 1 million subscribers on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have a close connection with 1 million people.
Right.
So sometimes
because there might be a much wider
totally.
variation of people.
Yeah. Whereas say if you've got someone round here who's just got a small audience, but it's really full of local people who actually know the person.
Yeah. And they're into that one thing that
die-hard fans.
Yeah.
And they'll just buy anything that this person promotes because they're on it.
So it's a bit like back in the day, your local best rider or pro in that area influenced all the younger people to buy that product, didn't it?
Yeah, I bet you've seen that before. You'd get a bike, or you'd get a new bike, and then within weeks you'd see other people on the same bike or the same kit or whatever. Yeah, same thing, but it's online.
Yeah, got you. Okay, that's interesting. But then obviously, the money that you can earn off YouTube itself, that is more based on how many subscribers you have, is it?
Not exactly, no. So you need to earn money on YouTube. You need to have 1,000 subscribers on your channel, and you have to have 4,000 hours of watch time on your channel. So there's like some metrics that YouTube
that they do.
You have to hit that first, and then you can apply for the YouTube Partner Program, which is basically where you get certain ads on videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
When you get shown an ad on a video, YouTube splits the revenue of that ad in pretty much in half with YouTube and the creator yourself.
Okay.
So it's called ad revenue.
Right.
And obviously, if you get a video that does really well, you'll get paid more. But it doesn't always depend on subscribers, because you could have a viral video that gets millions of views with 1,000 subscribers, or you could get a viral video with 1 million subscribers. Subscriber count doesn't really matter too much.
So is it more to do with if you get a viral viewing video, like how many people do you have to for it to be viral?
I always class a viral video as, because viral means different for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So I always say a viral video is a video that gets more views than the subscriber count of the channel.
Right. Okay.
So if you have 10,000 subscribers on a channel, if you get more than 10,000 views on a video, that was what I would class as a viral video, or something that's gone nuts.
But if you do a video, say you've got 10,000 subscribers and you get 100,000 views, or you get 1 million views, is that a much difference in what you would get paid off YouTube?
Oh, wildly different, yeah. So like they have a thing called RPM, which stands for revenue per milli, or revenue per 1,000 views.
Right.
And that's how much YouTube will pay you for 1,000 views on a video.
Right.
And that number ranges between what content you're posting. So if you're posting videos in a mountain bike niche, it can be between, like my RPMs on my channel are between about £4 and £5.
Mm-hmm.
About £4 or £5 up to about £15 per 1,000 views.
Right.
So then you can just do the maths quickly, that if you have an RPM of £5 and you get 1 million views on a video, that would be £5,000 for every 1 million views.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can just work the numbers out like that. But it can stack up quite fast. But you can't. The problem is with viral videos, not every video goes bonkers. Yeah. So you can't really rely on it as an income source, like just a sole income, which is where
it's up and down.
Yeah, this is where brand deals come in, and you do partners with other people who, use their kit, use their stuff, whatever.
Yeah. And so, how long were you doing your channel and posting your videos before it sort of grew and really took off? Did it take a long time, or was there a certain video that just made that happen?
So I started posting videos in December 2017.
Yeah.
And it was actually only about 2.5 years ago that I had the first video that went absolutely nuts.
Okay.
And it wasn't even something I expected. I went to a bike park in Germany called Green Hill Bike Park, and I just went there to ride the place.
Yeah.
And it was a really misty day. And just went about my normal day of just putting a GoPro on, went and recorded my riding, and uploaded the video, and changed the thumbnail of the video. So when you go on YouTube and the thing that you click on.
Yeah.
I actually changed that about 2 days into it being live on YouTube.
So you'd already posted it and then you changed it?
Already changed it. I already uploaded it and then changed it 2 days later or something, and then within about 2 or 3 days the video just exploded.
And so it was basically because of that.
Yeah.
So that, I take it, that's why people put on the front of a video like, I nearly died, or I did this, and
sometimes, yeah. I mean,
what do you think? What did you change it from and to? What made that difference?
I mean, there's no words or anything on it. The video is literally called "The Most Unique Bike Park I've Ever Ridden." Or something really simple. Yeah. And the thumbnail is literally me riding over a wooden bridge into the mist. It's nothing's fancy or anything.
Okay.
But there was something about the simplicity of it that just creates this intrigue in someone and people just think, what the fuck is that? I need to watch that.
Right.
And then, so once that went viral.
So how? Just explain to us, because I don't understand.
Okay.
How does that go viral? Like, how does so many people see that thumbnail to watch it?
So when you upload a video to YouTube,
Yeah.
YouTube will show it to a small pool of people first.
Oh, okay.
So it'll show it to maybe 100. It'll put your thumbnail in front of 100 people or 1,000 people.
Right.
And then it'll see how those 100 people respond to the thumbnail.
Ah.
So if they click on it and it's getting a good response,
Mm-hmm.
then it'll show it to even more.
Ah.
And then it'll see how it
So it's
responds.
them that's helping.
Kind of, yeah. It's in their best interest.
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of people seem to think that, you know, they put what they think is a good video out on YouTube and it doesn't do very well, and they're like, oh, I've been shadow banned, or the algorithm is working against me. YouTube doesn't like me.
Right.
When in actual fact, it's probably just because you just uploaded a shit video that people don't want to watch
Right.
or don't want to click on.
Right.
So if you can figure out how to make a good video with a clickable thumbnail,
Yeah.
YouTube wants to show it to more people, because obviously if it does better,
They make more money.
exactly, so it's
Yeah.
in their interest to show it to more people,
I see.
but only if it's watchable and people want to see it.
And then once you've got one viral video, does then the rest of your videos just
No.
stay up there?
No.
Can they go right back down to where they were before?
Well, if you go and look at the videos I've posted in the last couple of weeks have not been doing very well,
Right.
and I couldn't explain why. But the only thing I can think of is that my actual ideas of the videos haven't been as good as they used to be. So now, like, I spend a lot of my time now.
Thinking what to
Yeah,
do.
that's all I do. Instead of just going out and filming everything and uploading it all to YouTube, maybe someone like Bernard does that. I will sit and only make a video if I think this has a potential to do really well.
Right.
If not,
But
it's
a lot
not
of the time you're kind of guessing. Do you sort of look back at what did well and try and think
Yeah.
why that did well and why something else didn't?
So when that first video went nuts, I started like really analysing it and thinking, like, how did that go bonkers? What was it about that video that people loved?
Yeah.
And then literally the following week, made another video in been to Winterberg before.
No, I don't think I've been.
So-
Obviously I've heard of it, yeah.
It's another bike park in Germany I went to.
Yeah.
Quite fun. Made a video there, uploaded it, and applied what I thought I'd learned from this first viral video, and this one went viral.
Right.
I was like, oh, I must be on something here. I must
Right.
have figured something out. And then I think in that year I must have had about 10 videos that got like insane views. Like, I've never seen it before, never seen numbers like that before. So then I kind of feel like I've figured
And
out.
were these similar things, like riding different bike parks and like an interesting thumbnail? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like what I figured out was people in mountain biking anyway.
Mhm.
I was figuring out people like to see relatable things. So
Yeah.
if I did a ride that was like very high exposure or very high risk,
Yeah.
people loved that.
Okay.
And if I could show that in a thumbnail, again, people would click and watch it.
Yeah, so basically, where you're at now with it all is you just film what you want to be riding. So you're not riding stuff for your channel. You're filming stuff that you're interested in, you want to ride.
There's probably a bit of a mix of both. Like
Okay.
I do still focus on what I do. Try and most time put out what I want to ride.
Yeah.
But I also have at the back of my mind, if I'm making a video, I've got this idea of like what people want to watch as well. But I also don't want the channel just to dictate what I ride, so then I end up just doing a video because I know it'll get, you know, like,
Views.
yeah. But I'm in quite a good position now where I feel a lot of the videos and ideas that I have will have the potential to do well, and people want to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good place to be, because I get to ride what I'm passionate about, what I want.
Yeah.
And people love watching that.
Right. And so obviously, you know, with your direction you've gone with your riding now, you don't race anymore. Very
Little
much. Very, but like you were when you were focusing.
not EWS or down there.
So, and obviously lately, you know, we go out riding and stuff, and I see what bikes you have and stuff like that. So, it seems lately you've got much more into riding your downhill bike again.
Love it.
Now, is that because, you know, obviously when you were doing the enduro, it was because you were riding your trail bike more and you were comfortable on your trail bike, so you wanted to race your trail bike. What's the switch to the downhill bike? Is it because there's a lot more bike parks now that you can go and ride, and they've got big jumps and stuff which suit the downhill bike more. Is that why you're kind of going on the downhill bike a lot more?
Yeah, I built that downhill bike up last year in Whistler, and I haven't ridden a downhill bike properly for a long time before that, and was just blown away by how different that was to an enduro bike.
Yeah.
Even just having triple clamp forks in the front, it's so much more stable and it just takes so much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's fueled a lot of the motivation to ride that. Right. Having some good bike parks here, like even you've not been yet, have you? W Bike Park?
No, we've gonna have to go this
we'll
summer.
Have to go, mate.
Although I'll be honest, I'm probably going to be too scared to hit all the jumps these days. Which I used to love jumping when I was younger. I still love it now, but now I start telling myself, you don't need to hit them big jumps, you're too old. And then on the other side, it's telling me to do it, but we'll see how we go. But what I wanted to say about the downhill bike, because I haven't had a downhill bike for years, which is crazy. But like we were, when I was running the race team, we were focusing on enduro, so I kind of needed an enduro bike. Wasn't going to any bike parks to ride where I needed a downhill bike, but last year went to Morzine. My enduro bike was fine, to be honest. However, there was the odd track or the odd bit of riding that I thought, I'd really like to have a downhill bike, because they just give you that bit more sense of security, don't they? And you feel a little bit safer on them. Like you were saying, then even just having a set of triple clamp forks on the front of your bike, the back of your bike's behind you, you're not looking at that, are you? So just having that, triple clamp fork on the front, it just feels safer to do stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Like we, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, it might have been last year, we went to place in France called the Royal Hills.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that. They had some huge jumps there.
Yeah, so they've got a motor track there as well.
Right.
Huge motocross track. And when we went there, I put triple clamps on my enduro bike.
On your enduro bike.
Just for the stiffness.
And how was that you're on your Vitus enduro bike, which was what 160 on the rear, 165 or something. Yeah. And then did you just put a full 200mm, or did you shorten them like some of the free ride guides do?
Dropped them down to like 180 travel.
180. So how did you do that?
Well, all I did was push the crowns through, or push the legs through the forks.
So you still had the same amount of travel in your forks, 200mm.
But it would have been. If you drop the fork legs through, you can drop the travel, can't you?
I wouldn't have thought you could, because your forks are still travel.
Well, either way, I dropped them through just so it wasn't as slack. The head wasn't as slack,
and the front wasn't as high.
Because I was panicking that because I never asked Vitus if they'd let me do it. I just did it because I knew if I wanted to ride these jumps, I needed some big ass suspension.
Yeah.
Because the single crown forks on those jumps, like you'd be all over the place.
Yeah. Just they feel twitchy, don't they?
So I put these forks on, and dropped them through a bit, and then took them out there. I put a bash, got like a chain device and stuff like that. I made it more like a downhill bike.
Yeah.
Took the dropper seat post off because I was panicking that
it'd flip up.
Mid-air or something. So I took that off and put just a solid seat post on.
I hadn't thought of that.
Imagine coming into the lift of a 110-foot jump and your seat post comes up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Good, fair point. Because I was thinking of building a bike for this summer, with triple clamps on, but I was thinking, well, have me drop a post on, just pedalling from the uplift to the...
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, yeah. Going off, because, you see quite a lot of guys now that aren't racing World Cup and aren't racing, but they're doing all them big jumps and all the downhill bike park tracks and stuff, and they've got, they're not riding World Cup downhill bikes because, I was having a conversation, catch up with Dave Weagle earlier on in the week, and we were talking about bikes and what bikes we think aren't available that could be good for people. And I've been thinking about a bike for a couple of years now, because for instance, a super complicated top of the range flipping downhill World Cup race bike, you don't necessarily need that to go to somewhere like Dovey with a load of big jumps, do you? You're not trying to beat people by a split second. You don't need a super complicated suspension system, in my opinion anyway, for just riding that stuff. It's more to do with, the size of the bike, the angles, enough travel, but it can be quite simple, can't it, to ride all that stuff. But now you're onto a full travel downhill bike. Is it more, do you feel safer again than when you had your Vitus with your triple clamp forks on, with there being more travel on the rear, or is it quite similar?
Yeah, way safer.
So you don't think having a 200mm downhill bike front and rear is a disadvantage on any jump tracks?
No, I think I personally think it's an advantage. I think it helps me anyway, personally, with confidence and just overall how I ride the bike. Like the bike I'm on, the Zeroed, is phenomenal. Like it's a lot stiffer than the actual chassis of the bike is stiffer, because it's designed for a downhill bike rather than just an enduro bike that I've put downhill forks in the front of. So, and my bike also is set up probably different to a race bike now.
Stiffer.
No, way stiffer. So when I was in California a few months ago, we went to DVO, and I asked, Ronnie, don't you?
Yeah.
Asked Ronnie, like I said, can you make the suspension stiffer, because it's going through its travel way too much, which was great for like
tech stuff
for going fast. Yeah, but if you would start riding big jumps or big features in, say, places like Utah or anywhere like that, you blow through travel so fast. It becomes like unsafe.
Yeah, it's like, we were chatting before, and you just got yourself a motorbike, and I've been riding my old KDX lately, and it's the same with if you're doing hard enduro, you need super soft suspension, but you take that bike on to a supercross track, it wouldn't work, and it's getting to that point with mountain biking, isn't it? That the jumps are that big, you need your supercross suspension, and then you're riding here in the Lethan Tech, and you need your suspension soft for the grip on the roots and rocks, don't you?
Yeah.
So it is going at the variation in setup is getting a lot more like motorbikes, I'd say.
What did I find? The Zeroed. So how I've got my suspension up is amazing for jumps and big hits. If I want to ride fast on a downhill track, I find I have to physically ride faster for the suspension to work better. Yeah. Which is interesting. But once it's working, it's pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, on a smaller scale, I remember, if you're going racing downhill, start of practice, you'd end up having sort of, not much compression on your settings, but then as you get familiar with the track gets rough and you get faster and more confident, you end up winding the compression up, because you're blowing through the travel a lot easier. So I guess that, it's a bit similar there. And, so with the, doing your channel and going to more and more different spots with big jumps and stuff, is that progressing your riding, would you say, at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been... when did it start? I've always liked big jumps and big air and big features over, well, not always, because I used to enjoy going fast on the downhill bike when my goal was to race World Cups. Yeah. But I think my priorities my focus has changed, and what I actually enjoy riding has changed now.
Yeah.
I did Tour de Nard the other year. Did you see that? Which is more
super gnarly,
Yeah, but that was more technical riding with big features. Yeah. So it was very high precision riding, which I quite liked. And then obviously you've got the big jumps, which is a different discipline altogether. Yeah. I feel I enjoy going to a place that's got these big features with all the people who are in similar mindset to me and want to ride stuff like this, or who can ride them, and figuring out mentally how to get through them. Because when I went to, say for example, Royal Hills the other year, those are some of the biggest jumps I'd ridden. They were, I think one of the biggest ones there is 100, I think it's about 110 foot from lip to lip.
Yeah.
and when you're in the air for so long.
Yeah.
And you're coming into the takeoff, and you can feel yourself going up the takeoff,
right.
warp speed, like fully committed,
Yeah.
ready just to get airborne. And I feel like I've had to work in the last few years on mindset on how to do that style of riding.
Sure. I would have to.
Like, so when you're looking at the jumps of how to do them and like trying to weigh up like, well, how's that going to send me? How much speed do I need? How am I going to deal with this coming into it?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to really get better at the mindset side of riding now, more and more of how I approach features and how I can do them, rather than just trying to ride something, like without the confidence kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you can't hit those jumps without being 100% confident, can you?
No, like I was saying to you before, I will never, no matter how crazy something looks, I will never ride something that I know I can't ride for sure.
Yeah, like you won't go into something if you think I'm 50-50 here whether I'm going to make it.
I've reached a point now where I'm happy enough to be like, no, I'm fine with this. I've never rolled the dice.
Yeah, sure. That's hopefully going to keep the injuries at bay and the longevity of what you're doing, because you have one big crash or a series of injuries, and that knocks your confidence huge and knocks your enjoyment and your riding level backwards, doesn't it? Which is sometimes inevitable with people pushing the limits all the time. So what well, one thing I've heard about is you've been going riding lately. I've seen with some don't want to say like they're not bigger YouTubers than you bigger YouTubers, but big stars in our sport that do YouTube channels, if you get me. Matt Jones is super successful from what he's done in the past, and now because of what he's done in the past, his YouTube channel I imagine's successful, and he does the same sort of bike park stuff that you do and the big jumps. And interestingly, I saw a little thing on him the other day where, I guess he's come from the other side. He's always had bikes with super stiff suspension, and then he's gone and got his suspension set up softer so he can ride the downhill tracks better in between the features. But I believe with, like we've talked about before, you've always said you'd like to go and do hardline. And it looks like now hardline was just about races, but in the last few years that they've invited different athletes to come and do hardline. I imagine the racers will still be the ones that will win the event, but they probably want different, different discipline, high profile riders to come and do those events now. So, you've got some free riders, Matt Jones does them, then you've got a bunch of racers that's doing it. How do you think hardline's gonna go from here? Do you think it'll get open more to people like yourself that are just concentrating on, doing a YouTube channel and going and doing those big features? Do you think it'll become accessible to people like yourself?
And that's a tricky answer, isn't it? It's a tricky question because it's such an exclusive event. I think that's what makes it so special, that there's only 20 or 30 riders that go to it.
Yeah.
And I can say straight away that I know I wouldn't be competitive in terms of speed on racing a hardline track, but
neither. To be fair to Matt's not, is he?
For me, being able to do a full run of, say, the hardline track in Wales would be such an amazing achievement. And it's one thing doing one of the features on the track and then stopping and like looking at it and thinking, fuck, I've just done that, and like, giving yourself a pat on the back. But for me, the achievement is being able to do feature after feature, and in between, like, reset yourself, and then for the next feature, and then just keep going. I think it takes such a good mentality to do that. And then obviously the people who are racing competitively as well as doing that is like next level. Like it's amazing that.
Well, I went to some of the early Wales frontline events to watch and to, you know, support my riders that were doing it on the team. And I think in them early days, it was a case of ticking off each feature, because you know, maybe in the first couple of years the features weren't built, you know, they weren't quite as dialed as they are now, you know, as they've tweaked the jumps over the years. And at first it was getting through one feature at a time and sort of coasting to the next feature and doing that. And then, you know, we've got to a stage now where you've got riders like, you know, Jackson Goldstone as an example, and you know, Bernard and Joe Smith that have done it for years, and they're comfortable on all the features. But it's a race. It's like a World Cup race in between the features.
Yeah.
You know, you can only hit those jumps at a certain speed. You know, you can't go too fast because you'll overjump it. You can't go too slow because you'll come up short. But it's those gnarly sections in between where you've got to push, and that's the time that's made up to win the event, isn't it? I mean, it was super impressive to me. You know, Jackson going and winning it in his first ever time. It just shows how good on a bike he is, and how good the level of, you know, the younger generation is coming up. Because I guess they've grown up with, I've talked about this before with other people, you know, when I was racing downhill, we didn't have all these bike parks and uplift places. So, you know, your time on the bike is so much bigger now than, you know, pushing your downhill bike up 6 times in a day and that was it. You know, you rode the tracks down and they didn't have these big jumps unless you built them yourself, or, you know, you went to a World Cup and it had a big jump on it or something. So
totally,
the level's just going up and up, isn't it?
I think when they introduced the Tasmania race last year, I thought that track looked more like a downhill racetrack than what I thought Hardline was. So like, I thought Hardline was, I mean, it's maybe everyone's got a different opinion on this, but to me Hardline was what it used to be when it first started, when it was literally like hard
to get down.
I mean, it's still hard now, but like for me, when you look at the Tasmania track now, again, I've never been to Tasmania, so I can't comment directly on it, but it looks to me like it's an easier track than the Welsh one.
100%, it looks easier to me. I mean, the features look terrifying if you're not doing them, and you know, like you're doing those big jumps quite regularly now, whereas to me, I don't do any of that. So it looks, you know, in my mindset, I'd be like, oh, get there and there'd be that massive jump. But once you've done one, you've got comfortable doing jumps that big, then yeah, the Tasmania track looks way more intimidating to me than the Welsh one. Because, you know, just, you know, on the Welsh track, you've got a huge open feature, and then you land and you've got, and depending on the weather, you've got slippy rocks to try and slow down and negotiate through. You know, like the other year, when I was there, when Elliot Heap did the event, Joe Smith was literally up on everyone's time, and then on the one section of the track where you think that's something that you'd be comfortable riding between 2 features, he clips a pedal and went over the handlebars, and you know, that was his chance of winning, gone on probably the most simple part of the track. But because there's so many things going on in Wales, is you've got stumps and rocks and stuff in between, it's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the actual, I think Red Bull, if they're smart, will turn it into a series, which they kind of already are. So it'll be like Hardline series.
Hopefully.
I don't know. One thing that's unique about Tasmania is I've heard they're going to keep those parts of that track, or the whole track, open as part of the bike park. Yeah. Which I'm not too sure if that will pull away from like how exclusive the event is, if everyone can just go and ride it, versus Hardline in Wales, like you can only go and ride, only riders who are selected can go and ride on that track during Hardline. You can't just go and ride it. Whereas what I heard in Tasmania is they potentially will be keeping it open as part of the bike park, which I guess will increase, like will help riders get better at riding bigger jumps and ride the tracks that they may use. But does it pull away from the exclusivity of what Hardline is? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess it does. You know, and people want to see the top riders in the world racing something that they've not seen before. You know, I guess that's interesting. Whereas, you know, you could like you say, if the Tasmanian track is open to the general public, then, you know, if someone's flying over from the other side of the world to go and compete on that track in a year's time, some local who's got every single bit of that track dialed is probably going to be as competitive as that person coming over. You'll always get your superstars that'll be able to, you know, beat your locals, but there'll only be a few of them, you know. And so, you know, with regards to, you know, being heavily involved in media and all the different racing that you've done, do you see a series like Hardline for viewers becoming bigger than the Downhill World Cup if that was to take off?
I reckon so. Just because, I mean, I think it's more relatable, right? I think I just think big features, big jumps. It goes back to the whole YouTube thing as well. Like what I found with my channel was the videos that would perform better were the ones that were relatable to other people. So if there was some sort of a cliff in it, if there was some sort of a like stairs or something that people knew what it was, they would be much more likely to watch it because they knew what was going on. Versus if I go make a video showing some of the trails around in Olethen, it's not going to go viral because no matter how fast I ride the trails here, it's not very relatable or interesting to people, to a wider audience. Whereas if you go and stick up a video on a track like Hardline where there's visible gaps, there's visible features, there's wooden bridges, there's all this stuff that people are like, oh my god, road gaps, like big obvious road jumps over cars and stuff. It's so much more enticing and interesting for people, like the everyday person, to watch. It's like, oh my god, I know the size of a car. I know what a wooden bridge is. These guys are riding off a wooden bridge over a road. Like, what? Same with street racing.
So do you think, you know, because obviously, you know, what I've always thought is would get quite a lot of views, and some other people use that as their channel, is going and riding, you know, riding spots like here, and then people who want to come and visit here will look at your channel before they come here because they want to tick off riding, you know, flat white or whatever, because and they can watch you ride it first, so they can come here and know what to expect. So that works for mountain bikers to go and see something. Or, you know, if I wanted to go and ride one of the tracks at Dovey and I could watch your POV first, at least I know what's sort of on that track and whether I feel like I want to go and ride that or not. So do you think when you've done a video with like what you've just said, there's a big road jump over a car, or there's a big lot of steps, or do you think there's people watching it that aren't going to go and do that stuff? It's just the people that are just watching it because they think it's mad and they won't ever go and do that.
Yeah, I think both examples you gave there will work. They'd be interesting to people. But like if I made a YouTube channel and it was all just based around me visiting trails in Scotland or whatever, it would only be appealing to mountain bikers. Or people who are thinking of going to these places.
And doing it,
I'm trying to think much bigger now. I'm trying to think on the scale of like, how do I attract more people who don't even know what a bike is, or how who, you know, might have a vague interest of what a downhill bike is, but have no idea that there's people doing these huge jumps or anything. So that's, to me, is where the opportunity is, where you can bring a new audience in to mountain biking, and that's also can be appealing to brands. It can be appealing to everything, and then obviously you have the potential to grow a channel more and get more exposure in what you're doing. And I just find to me it's just ironic that it comes from the stuff that I'm enjoying doing as well. It's not something I'm having to be like, oh, I have to now go in this direction because that's where the audience is, or just so happens that that's what I believe people are more interested in. Same, like I said, same with street racing. Like if you go and look at any videos on street racing on YouTube, I'm pretty sure most of them, you know, the street races in like Colombia, where they're racing down like stairs and stuff where the handlebars are literally millimeters from walls. To me that's relatable to an extent to a normal person. They're like how is this person?
Because they know what that street is.
Well, they may never have been there, but they can get an idea of like steps, wall, bike should not go together, and it's just interesting.
So you think people that, because I think that's the problem with Downhill World Cup is getting viewers that don't ride mountain bikes to watch it. You know, it's not, you know, I can see it when it used to be multi-rider discipline racing, you know, like four cross or whatever, then that can be interesting because you're watching people race each other and knocking people off. But somebody that doesn't ride mountain bikes watching a Downhill World Cup, it might not look that impressive because it's just one person on the road.
Yeah.
So that's where they're always talking about making it Formula One and it being a huge TV show. I struggle to see that that's going to work. But from what you're telling me, a lot of your audience that you think aren't even mountain bikers.
Yeah.
So how do you think you could make Downhill World Cup interesting to non-mountain bikers? Because for instance, my wife isn't interested in bikes. She doesn't watch Downhill World Cup or anything. But how would you make it interesting to someone that's no interest in bikes to become a viewer?
Well, if you had the guys are riding at absolute limit. So I was going to say higher speeds, but like high speed is very interesting.
Yeah, because you're a bike rider.
Exactly, but I'm a biker, so it's hard for somebody who might not be able to grasp how fast this person is riding through the woods or whatever. So if they added in, for example, like at Leogang they have a big wall ride, or they have tunnels and they have jumps. All those features are very interesting for people to see. Even though they're the features that the riders don't want. Exactly. Yeah, this is the problem. Like riders and racers just want like a track that is an old Val d'Isole track. That's like a proper track, but that doesn't make money from media or as much as it could do. Say,
doesn't even look fast.
Exactly. Whereas at Leogang they could literally, that track now has been refined so much over the years. Now they can just literally run a drone following a racer down the whole track, through tunnels, over jumps and everything, and that's where all the coverage comes from.
Okay.
But you can't really get that on a Val d'Isole raw track, which is what proper racers are craving.
And so, with the technology they've got now, where there's drones following the riders and stuff, do you think that's going to be able to, really grow the viewing figures because it's more relatable? That the drone, you can actually nearly see what the riders are doing, can't you?
Yeah, I think that will make it more interesting, but I don't know if it'll be enough to. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where racing goes this year and beyond. With the less people will be racing just because of the way the sport's gone, and seeing how that fares compared to what it used to be like. Because to me, it looks like they're taking it in the direction of Formula One.
That's what they always talk about, and that's what they're saying. I mean, for me. I've never really been that interested in Formula One until I watched Drive to Survive.
Same, yeah.
Same with the Tour de France, when I watched the Tour de France thing. And I think, just going back to the Enduro, I think that's what they should do with Enduro. It should be a series where it focuses more on the riders and the teams. The actual riding footage isn't even as much as the story behind the racing. I think they need to do that with the Downhill World Cup as well. To a lot more behind the scenes stuff to sell it as a series rather than just a live race run every World Cup. I don't think it's enough.
No, totally.
Because you become, that you start to know that rider, that team, and even if you're not heavily into the sport of downhill racing, you become familiar with a certain rider and you really like them, so then you want to see how they're doing. You want to see, one team might look good to you, like for me in Formula One, I don't care who rides drive some of them, I'm always wanting Ferraris to win.
Yeah.
Because I like Ferrari. Same with, you know, a mountain bike team. You might think that team looks cool, so you follow that team.
Yeah.
And I think the racing has to be like that. And if they don't do that, I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, but it will be interesting to see where it goes. I'm at the minute I'm a bit skeptical of the direction it's going, but that again is what happens when money is injected into a sport and the scale it has been, because it was, when it first started, enduro was just Chris Ball who organised. I think it was just Chris Ball who organised
his team. Yeah,
put it together. Obviously, grew it to a point where there was a buzz around it. People were loving it, and then it took on a different form completely when big money got involved, and then they dictate how things should look, and then it just changes the whole concept of the race.
Yeah,
and then
what the sport's all about.
Yeah, and then riders. Well, I'm not speaking for myself here, but then I started to lose interest in it. I can't understand how brands can see what return they get from exposure. Yeah, because that's definitely different to what it used to be. Yeah, and then you start to question the sport as a whole, which is kind of frustrating. But it will be interesting to see where it goes. But I hope it doesn't just like reach a point that less people are interested in it and it just dies off completely.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Because our downhill racing is like the Formula One of the sport, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not like Formula One, but it's relatable that it's the fastest,
highest level of the sport, where everyone's refined their race machines to literally shave off milliseconds to try and make the fastest bike. People are just going fucking ridiculously fast to try and win.
However, the thing that I can't relate to it as Formula One is, a lot of people like Formula One because they're not even interested in the racing. They're interested in all the money and the glitz and glamour. There must be so many people that go to Formula One just to, you know, like you go into the horse racing, or you go into hanging out with all these rich people. Downhill isn't like that. Downhill's working class person sport. Yeah. You know, so if you were a super rich celebrity and you go to a Formula One race, you get looked after, you're in the hospitality lounge. Go to Leger and watch Amory Pirion absolutely destroy everyone in the mud, in the pissing rain at the bottom. They're not going to go back, are they?
No.
So that's the bit that I struggle with them when they say we're trying to make it like F1. You know, that's...
Yeah. I wonder if this, the actual idea of... because Formula One, you race around a circuit, right? Downhill is just one stage, one time stage, start to finish. I wonder if that makes a difference to how people perceive it. Because say, for example, cross country. I went to watch the world champs in Glentress the year, and I was absolutely buzzing. Never watched cross country race in my life. Yeah. But like, because I could see riders coming around every lap, I was like, who's in front? Who's in front? Where's Tom Pidcock? Who's he overtaking now?
And they're racing each other.
Yeah. And I was buzzing.
Yeah.
And for me, that was exciting.
Yeah, same. And that's what I was saying, you know, and I've said this lots of times, four cross and dual and stuff could have been really good for spectators if it had been done correctly. Yep. They just went in the wrong direction with what they were doing, I think. But, you know, there's no reason that can't come back, and it can become, you know, those disciplines are actually easier to film, better for TV. The crowd, you know, one of the best atmosphere races I've ever been to, one of them, there's been a lot of downhill ones, but was the 03 Worlds. I think it was Livigno or Lugano or whatever it was called. And the four cross event that night, the crowd and the atmosphere was one of the biggest atmosphere things I've ever been to. It was amazing. And then they just let it, you know, go away.
Wild, isn't it? From a spectator standpoint, like watching four people race down a track
at night in the dark, having a beer, everyone's together. You can see the whole race. It's for bike racing. There's not much better.
Do you think people gravitate towards that more because there's more chance for carnage?
Yeah, well, for one, if you're not, like you're saying, if you're not super into riding mountain bikes and into downhill, you can't appreciate how fast them guys are going. You know, just on the TV, Val di Sole, for instance, it just looks like
looks flat, doesn't it?
Going down. not very fast down an hill. Whereas when you know what it's like, it's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you know, it's the same as when we were watching that hard enduro motorbike event. It's super slow, looks stupid, everyone's falling over. But when you do it, you appreciate how hard it is.
Yeah.
However, you know, people go and watch a supercross race and the people flying through the air 90-foot jumps out of a corner. Looks impressive if you don't even ride a motorbike.
Yeah.
So it's similar thing to that. And, you know, if you're not that into mountain biking, but you go on a Saturday night, it's a night out, there's a beer tent, there's all lights, there's music, there's 4 people racing over big jumps, knocking people off, carnage. It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. And same with that. I went to go and watch. I don't know why I didn't race it. Last year I was at Sea Otter.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd raced the dual slalom there.
That's the best event there, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's no big jumps.
No.
It's just a simple track, but it's head-to-head racing.
Yep.
It's exciting. You've got a good commentator. You've got some loud music on. You can all, you know, people can have a beer and get excited. It's a day out, isn't it?
And spectators can see the top of the track to the bottom.
Yeah.
And there's always something going on. Like 2 races will finish, and literally the next 2 are starting.
Yeah. So it's not
Always.
boring waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you go to a downhill World Cup and you arrive in the morning. You have a look around the pits, and then you're basically waiting for the whole day, aren't you? For the last.
Yeah.
Again, unless you're super into it, you're basically only interested in the last 10 people coming down, aren't you? That are hopefully getting slightly faster and faster. So, okay, well, moving away from the racing for a minute, what you know, we could go on talking all night. But we won't go on too much longer. But with regards to sponsorship in what you're doing now and YouTube stuff. Obviously, when you're a racer, you're looking for a bike sponsor, a tyre sponsor, your components or whatever if you're building your own program, and then you're hoping to get a bit of budget off them to help go towards getting to the racing, paying for all that. How different is it, doing a YouTube channel and what sponsors you can get involved with then? Is there more different sponsors that outside of the mountain biking that they're interested in supporting what you're doing?
I'd say there's more opportunity and there's less competition.
Okay.
So like whenever I used to look for sponsorship and like budgets from brands within mountain biking, it was always trying to squeezing blood out of a stone. Yeah. Like because you're literally competing with
so many
other people who are also they're willing to do something for nothing.
Yeah.
Which is, to me is just a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And I don't want to compete with that. So a lot of the brand deals that I have now and have done in the past have been outside of biking. So for example, camera companies, the cameras that I use for recording all my videos, they're a brand that have worked with me for the last couple of years. And there's countless other brands. And if you're positioning yourself as like, if you go and approach somebody from outside the biking industry who don't yet really have a presence in the bike industry, but there is a target audience in there, that's really, really interesting and desirable for them. Yeah. And because you're maybe one of the only few people or the only person who's asked them, there's no competition. And generally what I've found is as well, the companies outside of biking, like tech companies like pay way more. Yeah, which biking at the minute is, I mean, it's just at the minute it's tight at the minute biking.
It's always been tight, and like you say, there's so many riders and competition. The very top ones get decent money, and then it drops off massively after that. And I think the industry has always been trying to squeeze riders to do stuff and don't value riders anywhere near enough for what money they make off brands.
It's a problem though. It's a big problem. Yeah. And
but because everyone does it, everybody does it.
It's because I feel, and I don't see. I have spoke to a lot of different people in different industries about this, and I don't know what it is about mountain bikers. From my experience, there's a lot of people who are content with just having free stuff. Like even though they've got like a huge audience, they've got a ton of value to bring to the industry and the brands that they were involved with, they'll settle for nothing. And because that's been done so much, that's now the norm for brands. So it's just like, well, yeah, we'll give you a bike, we'll give you some suspension, but yet you're helping promote this product and helping a brand make sales. Yeah. So you should be entitled to something of that for sure.
I guess it's it's relatable. It would be more relatable, and maybe there's a time with what you're doing now you can do that. You've got to be able to prove to that brand that giving you those forks or that wheel set is going to make them X amount of money. And I don't think in the past that's been achievable. Like for instance, a big brand like RockShox and SRAM, if they sponsored Sam Hill or Steve Pete in their heyday, they know that they're going to sell product.
That's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Where if they took a gamble and went with somebody else, like myself, that wasn't winning World Cups, but might have had a decent audience. How do they know that it's even worth? If they spending £10,000 on me in product, they've got to be able to make that back in a lot more money, and it's how you prove that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas maybe with what you're doing with figures and stuff, they can use that to hopefully put a value on what you're doing.
Yeah, you can kind of get close to that. You can give yourself a value.
Yeah.
But it's always going to be hard. It's always going to be difficult. I mean, I feel I'm at a stage now where I'm quite confident in the value I can bring to a brand in the industry. So there's very few cases I will do something for nothing unless I feel it's a win-win for both me and the brand. Yeah. I never like feeling when it's like a very one-sided thing, but a lot of the brand deals are not. They're very meet you in the middle, mutual benefit for both parties.
And I guess, a lot of people are doing it, and you're starting to do it a bit now because, whether you become really well known from winning World Cup races or really well known from doing what you're doing with a successful channel, as well as your previous, obviously you've been able to do that from racing and learning your craft, but now you're able to start working on some of your own products that you can promote through your company. Like you've got a goggle company and you've got your mustache thing, which me and Harrison use, which I think's amazing. Just that simple little things, just a great little thing. So I guess having your channel, it's enabled you to start making your own products, and hopefully, if they're successful enough and you've got enough products, you won't need to ask for money off other people.
Totally.
And I see, with again relating back to what Matt Jones has done with his health clothing company, that's become super popular with the kids straight away because of he's already famous, and then he's got so many viewers, the kids want all that stuff, and that's another way of making money riding your bike, isn't it?
Yeah, always
is great.
Always trying to diversify your income. Like I think it'd be silly if you were just to rely on income from YouTube or one place, because if that gets swiped,
you've got to have something else lined up. Yeah, it's like a racer. If there's been so many racers that just rely on race results to get paid, and once that stops, if they haven't got something else set up for the future, then that decent money that they've been earning is gone in a split second.
I think a lot of people are in that position.
And there's been a lot of, over the years, there's been crazy popular racer superstars that if they did what you do, as well as what they've been able to achieve with racing and success and fame, they could make a fortune, couldn't they? But some people just don't do it.
I actually have noticed a bit of a shift though in mountain biking from in the last few years. I've seen a lot more top level riders starting their own brands, trying to get more eyeballs on a YouTube channel, because I think they're starting to understand like how much it plays. It might not even be YouTube, it could be another social media platform, but just having an audience of people who are interested in what you're doing. So then you can sell them merch, you can sell them a product, so you have something to offer them from another brand or whatever.
Yeah.
It's super valuable. Like racing itself is obviously really valuable, but I think it's a bad idea to just rely solely on that, unless you are like right at the peak.
Yeah.
Like if you're top 3 in the world, top 5, then or maybe top 10 now. I'm not sure. Those guys probably. Do you think top 10 riders are all solely reliant on a racing income, nothing else, just focus on racing?
Yeah, pretty much. Other than Bernard, but 2 years ago Bernard was, what did he finish, 5th in the World Cup? But I would imagine what he was doing with his channel and stuff was as big as.
Yeah, but like, do you think there's some racers who don't have anything like Bernard's got going on, for example, who just can, like outside the, say for example in motocross, it's a much bigger industry and sport. If, say for example, I was doing motocross at the level I am now in mountain biking, I'm pretty sure I could live off a wage just from a motocross bike brand, because it's such a bigger niche. Do you think there's many racers that are like solely reliant off an income just because they can ride a bike fast?
Yeah.
Like outside the top 10, top 20 in the world?
I think now you've got, especially moving it in the direction that the World Cup's going in now, if you're a top 20 rider and you've got points, you see teams need riders with points now to be in that top 15 team ranking. So I imagine there is some people, give an example, and I could be wrong, but Benoit Coulange that we had on the channel, you don't see him hugely in social media and doing all this stuff. So he's literally just relying on his salary from being a fast racer. But like you say, there's been more people that have diversified and they've got their own channels off of racing. But I think it's super hard to trying to be winning World Cup downhill races and have your own channel, because you'll know how much time it takes up. Like how much stuff Bernard does, I don't know how he does it. It's crazy. He runs a race team. He's trying to get World Cup podiums, win hardline. It's amazing.
Yeah,
he's very impressive to me.
Yeah.
Whereas you see Loic Bruni doing the odd social media thing, but nowhere near to that extent. But he's focused. And
I almost think he can't. Again, I don't really know Bernard too well, but I almost think he's somebody who thrives off.
I think he does.
Do you know what I mean? He needs so much going on, otherwise he can't focus properly. He just has to have all these things going on.
Yeah, definitely. So last question before we wrap it up. Talking about salaries, with races and everything else. So cross-country riders have always been, the top cross-country riders get paid well because one, it's an Olympic sport and they always seem to have got paid really well. The top downhill riders get paid decent, but not huge amounts. The free ride guys, I believe, I've never been involved with the free ride guys, but I believe, I've heard rumours of, a certain rider getting paid X amount to ride their frames in, and I'm talking like the best guys in the world. I don't think it's huge amounts of money. Probably someone like Brandon Semenuk, with everything he does, his value's big, so he probably gets paid well, I would hope.
Yeah.
And then, but now you've got people like Sam Pilgrim, who so many kids watch his stuff, he's huge. Matt Jones, Fabio Wibmer, the guy that does all the crazy stuff, he's on big money. Do you think it's got to a point now where the highest paid mountain bikers are not the racers, and it's the guys like Pilgrim and Fabio Wibmer and those kind of guys? I think they get a lot more money than
Like I'm pretty confident in saying and I don't know for a certain how much these guys get paid a year, how much they earn a year, but I can have a good guess of what they would earn.
And would their earnings be, would the earnings be bigger from like YouTube and stuff, or would, because they're that big on YouTube, the sponsors would be paying huge amounts to match that?
Yeah, that's what I would see. I mean, Pilgrim and Matt Jones, if I see those two guys are probably the biggest channels in that mountain biking kind of space, I think. I think they probably earn a fair bit off YouTube itself, and then I think brand deals, just because of their presence and their names themselves, brands would want to be a part of that. So I know Sam has deals with some pretty big names outside of biking, like Swatch Watch, which is a huge Swiss company, I think.
I mean, Swatch sponsored the World Cup Duel back when I was doing it. You know, it was called the Swatch Duel World Cup.
So I think they'll be paying. They'll have a big deep pockets for marketing, as well as other brands as well. But yeah, I think people like Pilgrim, Matt Jones, other people are probably, in terms of a monetary standpoint, they're definitely earning more than racers. I personally think, yeah.
But you know, both of those two guys initially became famous and well known from doing competition, didn't they?
Yeah.
Do you think now YouTube and stuff is big enough to be able to just be big enough in YouTube where you haven't been super successful in either racing or competition before? Do you think there's a way of
I think so, yeah.
Just by creating good content and becoming well known in that way?
I reckon so. You've got something unique about your videos or content, and you're a relatable person. You put out good stuff. I think it can work for anyone.
Yeah.
I think there are people who do put it off because they think, oh, it's too saturated, or I can't start now. I'm too late. I've missed the YouTube thing or whatever. Yeah. I don't think that's true. Yeah. I think everyone's got something unique to add. Like if you're comparing yourself to people like Matt Jones and Sam Pilgrim, you're already losing. Mm-hmm. There are very few people who will match their unique personalities and what they put out. Sam Pilgrim is a monster. I usually put out on my channel maybe a video or two a week max.
Puts tons out.
He puts 3 or 4 out a week consistently, which is insane. And they're always very unique videos that take a lot of thought. Mm. And I mean, I spent a bit of time with him recently in Malta, and he's very clever, very switched on, and he's always working. Right. Always doing something to do with his channel or his videos. He knows exactly where he needs to be, what shots he needs to get. Always thinking about stuff.
Well, I guess it's relatable for me with a top level racer. That top level racer is always thinking about racing. Yeah. Whether it's eating, training, going to the gym, doing downhill runs or whatever. It's the same thing. That's just their life. And his has become his life, that he's got to film content, put it out, film more, and that's it, isn't it? Interesting stuff, Alex. Well, we better wrap it up now because I think Maya's gonna starve to death. But yeah, it's been cool chatting about it all. If people want to follow what you're doing and and they don't already, what's the best channels to do that on?
I just follow me on YouTube at Wolfpack Adventures, or Instagram Alex Rides MTV. Okay. Follow on there.
And your brands that you're doing yourself.
Oh yeah, you can go check out Apex Goggles. ApexSeries.co is the website, and we were talking earlier about the goggles we launched, which is the new mountain bike goggle. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, looks interesting. Bit different to whatever else is out there. Mm-hmm. People starting to order them.
Well, we've sold out of our first batch now, so there's nearly 200 pairs sold in the UK and about 60 in the US so far. So
cool.
It's great, yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
And then your little bike mustache.
Oh yeah, Link Stash, the bike mustache. The Link Stash is just a spare little split link holder for a bike, so we're looking at expanding that. Go and check that out.
Well, if you ride a mountain bike, there's no reason to not have one of them, is there? Yeah. It's a great little tool, not expensive. And,
no, not at all.
Great stuff. Yeah. All right, well, thanks for bobbing round. I know it's a long way for you to come here.
Big walk.
Thanks for bringing your speaker and...
microphone.
Sorry, microphone. And, good seeing you. Terry, as I call you.
Terry, yeah. Nice.
Cheers, guys. Well, hope everyone enjoyed that episode. Hope you enjoyed the first one where our guest was in the same room as me. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and do all that stuff. If you're feeling generous, buy Myra a coffee, even though she doesn't drink coffee, but you know the score. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.
Cute.